This episode is brought to you by The Venture Project. You may be wondering what The Venture Project is. Well, we started a business back in January called The Venture Project. It is a 7,500 square foot co-working space where we have a podcast studio. It can also be used for music. We feature an event space. We also have a conference room and shared office and working environment. We also love to bring entrepreneurs walk-ins with ideas to come in off the streets that are looking for resources, whether that's venture capital, whether that's some entrepreneur capital, or just a community of like-minded individuals that want to come together and kick ass. So the Venture Project is located in Oshkosh, but you can certainly still participate if you're traveling around and you're ever in the area. Swing by, let's set up a meeting, have a coffee, and get to know each other. Swing by the Venture Project. You can learn more at theventureprojectoshkosh.com. If you are an aspiring podcaster or entrepreneur, come on in and we'd love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you. Once again, that's theventureprojectoshkosh.com. All right, welcome to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews podcast. Winners featuring people crushing it in life, wallets, talking about small business, entrepreneurship, real estate, finance, and investing, and worldviews, talking about business, philosophy, my faith as a Christian, as well as other worldviews that might compete with demand for truth seekers out there. Today's guest, we had Mitche Graf on the show. Mitch is a dad of 3, best-selling author, serial entrepreneur, internationally renowned business speaker. He's a radio host, and an all-American track and field athlete. He's been a passionate serial entrepreneur for over 35 years, dangling his toes into the ponds of many intriguing industries along the way. From selling used bicycle parts out of his garage in the 7th grade to running 4 companies today, he has prided himself on knowing how to squeeze every drop out of potential investors and endeavors out there. Folks, this was a fantastic episode. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it, especially for those of you that may have been diagnosed with or self-diagnosed with idea syndrome or shiny object syndrome, idea fatigue. These are all things when you want to figure out how can you make it all work or how can all these ideas come together. We really dig into that quite a bit on this show. And Mitch has got a really interesting background from restauranteering to catering events to limousine business. He's been all across the board in multiple different businesses. He is quite the marketer, has many different published books, and has learned this all himself the hard way. So this is really an awesome show today. Really excited to talk to you about lifestyle entrepreneurship, work-life balance, and what it really takes to start a business. So without any further ado, everybody, welcome to the show. Welcome to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews, the only show that's going to teach you how to be somebody.
Where in your life did you learn that you're not good enough?
Take what you're most passionate about and what you're most fearful of. And what is the plan to overcome that fear? And what is the plan to enact that passion?
Hi guys, welcome to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews. I'm your host, AJ Armstrong. You can follow me on Instagram at AaronArmstrong33, or you can go to my website, AaronJArmstrong.com. So on the other line, we got Mitche Graf over here talking to us about motivation, startup, entrepreneurship, all the good things. And we're going to dig into a heck of a podcast today. Welcome to the show, sir.
First of all, it's just Mitch with a silent E.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. So I think that's gonna help our listeners. And when I go back and put the professional intro, nobody will even notice that, right?
You want to start again?
No, we'll roll with it. Okay. I think when you have that raw style podcast, it kind of opens up the authenticity to people.
Well, there's actually a story behind why it's Mitch with an E. I was born Mitchell with 1 L, which is unique already because most Mitchells have 2 L's. But my mom and dad decided I was going to be a Mitchell Allen. So about the 7th grade, I decided I wanted to be different and unique. So I made the autonomous decision to drop my L, but keep the E. So it's Mitch with an E, but I get called Mitche, Mike, Miche, from the French people the European there. But it's just Mitch with a silent E. And it's indicative of how I've kind of run my entrepreneurial career. Look at what everyone else is doing, then don't do that. Look at running as fast as you can in the opposite direction. And so it just kind of shows my mindset, even when I was young. I wanted to be a little different.
Well, that's interesting. So you've always kind of been this person that likes to break away from the conformity of the world in a way.
I tried to. I remember when I was a kid, everyone sells lemonade for a quarter, but I sold it for 50 cents. But I gave you a free cookie. My mom would bake me chocolate chip cookies on Saturday mornings, and I'd set my little stand, my little table out there in the garage. And I always was busy. And I had a little table there with a tablecloth, an AM radio. In fact, I still have the radio today. AJ, look at this. It doesn't work anymore, but this is my original radio. And I would play Dodger games to customers that would come and pay me 50 cents for a cup of lemonade, and they'd pay me double. But I gave them that experience, right? That customer experience, which is, that's a big buzzword these days. But yeah, and that was back in the third grade, fourth grade, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Always trying to be just a little bit different. Because in the business world, as you know, if you're the same, if you get lost in that red ocean, that cutthroat red ocean, you get lost.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out something, whether it be your service, whether it be a product differentiation. You got to have something that separates you from the rest of the pack. And what that is, that's up to each person to decide individually. But I always look at my business opportunities the same ways. What can I do with this business to do something so different that nobody else is going to be able to compete? You find that red ocean,
Yeah.
No, the blue ocean. I'm sorry. From the red ocean, you find the blue ocean where
Right.
there isn't any competition. Competition becomes irrelevant.
Right, the blue ocean strategy. While we're talking about it, let's talk about that a little bit because, I started this co-working space. I've been doing a lot of the coaching and consulting stuff for the last 3 or 4 years, and since I've had this space, people approach with tons of different business ideas. And that's something that always comes up. It's like, what's going to make you different? What's going to make you better, faster, higher quality, lower price? What are the things that are going to make you different and get you out there? And I think people get so excited with the idea that they forget to think about somebody has to buy this from you in a lot of ways.
That's right.
So,
Whether you have a plumbing company or whether you have I have 4 companies now. One of my companies is a barbecue spice company. I love cooking. I love barbecue, right?
everybody does.
Everyone does, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's lots of competition in that space. But what I've decided to do is to kind of approach things a little bit differently. It's called Barbecue Nation. And starting here in about 60 days, you're going to find our little bottles in about 4,000 stores across the country. And I started at 0. And I looked at all the other brands, McCormick's and Meat Church, and there's a lot of great brands out there that do a phenomenal job with their spices. But I looked at what they were doing as far as trying to get retail shelf space and what they were doing with their branding and their packaging. I said, okay, I want to make my brand look like it's just one that's in everybody's kitchen. Like it's been around for 40 years. It's like an old pair of slippers, just really comfortable. And so we started doing branding, started showing up at some different events and handing out swag. And people, this is before we were anywhere. Oh, yeah, I have your stuff. Oh, I saw your stuff in the store. No, you didn't, but I didn't have the heart to tell them that. But we started with different packaging. We are a sponsor of the Justin Ashley Top Fuel Racing Team, which on Sunday afternoons on Fox Sports 1, you can watch these guys that go about 330 miles an hour in about 3.8 seconds. Our logo is on one of those cars. And through that partnership, they got us some meetings with some large retailers. So the whole thing is like, you help us, we're going to help you. Over here, we're going to help you, you help us. And before you know it, you got this team of people that you've assembled. And I always say that you want smart people, put people around them that are smarter than themselves.
Right.
And then you stay out of their way, give them direction, but then stay out of their way and let them do their job. And I think that's one of the signs of a good leader as well is it's not always about what your vision is. It's about taking 1 + 1 and making it 3, the power of groupthink. And when that happens, magic can really start to happen when you get a lot of smart people in a room, say, okay, what do you want to do with this idea for a new business, whatever it's for? And then once you add a little bit of magic pixie dust, hopefully it has wings and it takes off. But not every time is it gonna work. Sometimes you're just gonna fall flat on your face, and that's probably one of the best features anyway. Is to fail miserably, right? It's not how many times you got knocked down; it's how many times you've gotten up. As long as you get up one extra time, life is golden.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's. I was talking about this with a friend this morning over coffee, and we were talking about how so many people are cut out to like certainty. They want to know what's going to happen. But
Not if you're an entrepreneur.
yeah, as an entrepreneur, you got to be confident and have certainty within yourself, because you're not going to have it within the environment. So you've got to be able to rock and roll with the punches and be able to know whatever situation, whatever life throws at me, I'm prepared to respond and improvise. So you said you have 4 companies. Tell me what is the framework that you kind of look at as in an entrepreneur? Like what do you go to kind of like set that up?
Well, there's 2 philosophies in the entrepreneurial space. One is you look for opportunities, and then you figure out how you can turn that into a business. I've been really fortunate. I've been able to take my passions and a little bit of business acumen, a little bit of know-how. And so I add my business acumen to my passion, and that's what the fuel is. So I have the Barbecue Nation, as I mentioned. I have a very busy catering company. Pre-COVID, we were doing about 300 events a year. Wow. Very busy. We got named the Pacific Northwest Caterer of the Year, and we had no business in 2020. It's really strange. They gave us this big award, the top caterer, but we had we went from 600,000 down to about 30,000 during COVID. And we also have a manufacturing company that does party dips. I own the brand name Party Dips. And I have a publishing company. I've written 9 business books, and we do self-publishing. So we have all the assets in-house that we do, the designing, the marketing, the distribution, the editing. We do all that kind of stuff. And we do it for other authors as well. But it's stuff that I'm passionate about. I've been really lucky to have been able to do that. And I also have a radio show. It's called Business Edge Radio, and started out as a podcast, just like everybody else, right? 1.9 million podcasts in the world. And I have friends saying, well, why would you want to get in that space? It's very competitive. And I said, yeah, but I'm going to leapfrog to the front of the line, because I'm going to monetize it right from the beginning. I'm going to put the commercials in my podcast that are companies that I own. I also own an artisan coffee roasting company. Yep. So we just started putting these little spots in the hour show. And then I came up with this idea to do a 60-second Business Edge Minute show. And you fast forward about 11 months, we now have 32 affiliates in, I think, 25 states across the United States. We have listenership of over 100,000 people a week listened to on old terrestrial radio. It's not dying at all. Terrestrial radio, 92% of everyone listens to radio at least once a day. Yeah. So there's still a market there. So I kind of combine the podcast and the radio, but we monetize it right from the beginning, because we decided to put spots or ads in our podcast for companies that we owned.
Yeah. So, let's talk about that strategy for a lot of people, because I think that resonates with certainly our listeners. Is they might be excited about something, they might have a passion, but they might be in a position where they're not necessarily ready to jump into a business, or they don't know what to do. I would say 80% of people approach me first with, I want to be an entrepreneur. I said, great. Well, how are you going to serve? What's your product or service going to be? And they say, I don't know, but I really like fishing or something. Right. Yep, so yep. How does somebody go through identifying a passion of theirs and monetizing that passion?
That's a great question. That's a $64,000 question. When I look at the clients, because we do coaching as well, I look at the clients that come to us in the same situations. They say, I got this great idea for a product, and it came out of their love for something. Maybe they built a beautiful cabinet because they love cabinetry, and they've been a woodworker their whole life. And they want to figure out, how do I make this in bulk, and how do I sell it? Well, there's lots of questions you got to ask. Number one, is this going to be a measured risk? Because a lot of people think that an entrepreneur has to be a 24/7, work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. You got to be working and forsake your family and your hobbies and yourself. And I actually have the polar opposite. My 24/7 definition, AJ, is 24 hours a week, 7 months a year. And so everything I do, and we can talk for hours just about this philosophy, this concept. Every day I wake up, I ask myself, what can I do today to be more efficient so I can get the important things done, offload the stuff that's not so important, delegate it or automate it or eliminate it, or whatever you're going to do. But what is the most important stuff I got to get done today? And how can I be so uberly efficient that I can get my work done 24 hours a week, 7 months a year? Yes, I got 4 companies, but I also have 3 kids.
Yeah.
I'm 59. I have a 16, 14, and a 6-year-old. So I got to stay healthy and I got to stay active. Last night, I coached my son's baseball team. I was going to coach my 6-year-old's soccer team. It just didn't work out with the schedule. I couldn't quite, I have to work a little bit, right? I got to keep that train going down the road. But you got to ask yourself, is this something that's a measured risk, or do I feel like I have to put in everything that I have, my heart and soul into this? I say it's probably a little bit of both. Measured risk, and that's all I take anymore. I don't do the all-in risk like I used to back when I was in my 20s and 30s. I mean, I was gangbusters. Now that I'm at, I don't say the tail end of my career, but I've learned a lot of hard lessons. I got a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks. And so because of that, everything I do is measured. And I also teach that, and I recommend that. Make sure that if the worst happens, it absolutely fails, like embarrassingly fails, you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're still going to be okay. Your family is safe. Your retirement is safe, or whatever that you put aside, and that everything you do is a measured risk.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard for a lot of people to understand, because they hear that word entrepreneur and they really do think you have to go all in. And I say you don't, man. Just do it step by step as you can afford it, not just financially, but also time, right? Because if you're going to give 10 hours a week to an entrepreneurial idea, that 10 hours has to come from somewhere, right? You can't just make 35 hours in your day. It's a 24-hour day. So if you're going to dedicate 10 hours a week to this new project, where's that time coming from? And can you afford to give up that 10 hours? Is it with your kids? Is it with your family? Is it self-education? What is it that has to give? And are you okay with going without those activities for a short period of time while you build this new child?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that you mentioned that I think really resonate. The first one is, just as you said, there's a measured risk that can be acceptable to moving into entrepreneurship. I was never a fan of the, burn your boats, go all in kind of mentality, because I think there can be some strategic move into it that you can kind of seamlessly transition into it. As you mentioned, with time, I was talking about this with a guy. Long story short, I met a guy down at an antique store that owned the antique store, and it turns out he was an entrepreneur.
Are you an antiquer? Do you go antiquing?
Not so much. When I was trying to furnish this place, I was going antiquing a lot. So I'm here at the venture project. I was looking for furniture, looking for deals. And the guy that was running the antique store, him and his wife, great couple down in Punta Gorda, Florida. And I found this table I really liked. And as we got talking, he had been in real estate, lots of entrepreneurial endeavors. And I asked him, I said, well, when do you make the jump? When does that time come? And he had some great advice. I thought he said, you should always be running towards something, not running away from something. Right. I think that's a great question people can ask themselves. It's am I running away from this job? Am I running away from this lifestyle or this boss or whatever? And am I going towards something? Like, this entrepreneur thing should be pulling me out of my chair and getting me there, because it's got so much more opportunity. I'm swamped. I've got so many orders I got to make, whatever. Right. So I think that's one key piece that you hit on is there should be like this time management thing. And that brings me into the second point is, you mentioned you're working 24 hours all year, or whatever it is, the 4-hour work week, the
24 hours a week.
24 hours.
It's like Tim Ferriss, but a little bit different. Yeah, 24/7.
So what are your hacks and strategies specifically that help you get that efficient? I think that's something we could all really learn from.
Yeah. Well, the first one is what I've already mentioned, is you hire people around you that are very smart, in fact, smarter than you are. Give them direction, give them the tools to be successful, and then just stay out of their way. So I've been very fortunate to have people, whether it be virtual assistants or graphic designers or salespeople, whatever the need is. I've had people that have come along my life that feel the same that I do, as far as passion for life, passion for family. And so if we have those commonalities, it's very easy for me to train them to do anything. I can teach you how to make a bottle of spice. I can teach you how to answer a phone, but I can't teach you to be nice. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always looking for people that have that personality first, and that desire, and that hard driving thing inside their brain that says, my life is short, sweet, fleeting, and it may be over tomorrow. So by golly, I'm going to live to the best of my ability today. I'm not going to put this off until I'm 65 and retired and have my $1.2 million in the bank.
Right.
Life is too short for that. I lost my dad last year right in the middle of COVID. It wasn't because of COVID, but we almost couldn't say goodbye to him. at the end because the hospital was saying, no, you can't have any contact, right? Well, we had him released to his apartment, and we were able to say goodbye. I was with him when he had his last breath. And the cool part, AJ, his favorite thing to do in the world, his passion was fishing. And so the song that just coincidentally was playing in the background on the radio was "You and Me Go Fishing in the Dark." Remember that?
Yeah.
Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. That was playing in the background, and that was like so appropriate. And that was just another one of those aha moments for me. It's like, you know what? Business doesn't matter. All the money in the world doesn't matter. What matters is your family, your children, if you have kids, your friendships and your relationships that you've built over your lifetime. That's what truly matters. If you took everything away, there's a show called Undercover Billionaire. I don't know if you watched that at all.
Yeah.
Incredible show. I really believe that if you took everything away from me and you gave me 90 days, I can build a lifestyle, maybe not a millionaire again, but I can build a lifestyle that I'd be happy with for my family. I really believe that. It's because of the foundation that I've spent my 35 years being an entrepreneur laying, that foundation of my house. And now I don't care what business I have. I know I can be successful because I have that understanding of branding, marketing, sales, pricing, social media, all those little tentacles that go into a business success. If you have that understanding, you can be successful at anything, whatever you do.
Yeah, it's almost a rite of passage to an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it is.
I remember telling my wife, I was like, I feel like I got to go through some kind of rock bottom experience before I can really do this. And she's just like, well, that's just silly. And then we went through a couple really rough patches, and it really changed how I thought about entrepreneurship. And honestly, I can say that some of the best skills you develop are in very challenging, adverse moments.
And I went bankrupt back in the 90s. I mean, I used to take unmeasured risks. I mean, I'd lay it all out there. This one time I had this idea for a cribbage board company. You know what cribbage is by chance?
Yeah.
Piece of wood with holes in it, right? So I made this prototype, and I thought it was cool. I called it the Wildlife Designer Series. I had 4 different designs. One was a trout, one was a bass, one was an elk, and one was an eagle. And I took these 4 designs into local Target in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I said, hey, I got these cribbage boards. You want to buy them? They go, oh, these are really cool. What's in the case? I said, there's 48 in each case. He said, okay, I'll take 48 of each of the 4 designs. So I went, oh, crap. So I went back, found a cabinet shop that can make these things by the hundreds, got everything all tooled up, took in 48 times 4 to this Target store. You fast forward about 6 months. The whole region of Targets had ordered. You fast forward to the next Christmas, we were in every single Target in the United States. And I was spending money left and right to fill these purchase orders, right? We scaled from 0 to a little bit over $1 million in less than 12 months. That's hard to do because growth it's painful for many reasons. One, time, the most important thing is time, but also financial. You know, you can't, unless you got $1 million sitting in the bank, it's hard to finance the growth of a business unless you do it out of pocket. You know, I was trying to let the resources of the sales and the purchase orders fund the growth, and I had to spend some extra money. Well, it did very well. I built it for 2 years, then I sold it. But that same time in my life, I had a couple other ideas that I was putting money out, a lot of money. One's called Hot Tubs to Go. I was going to franchise a portable hot tub rental business across the whole country. And I spent well over in excess of $100,000. Fell flat on its face. I still think it's a great idea. It wasn't a franchise model that worked. But anyway, I went bankrupt back in like 91, 92. Man, that was a hard lesson. You know, I had a lot of assets and man, the judge said, okay, you're going to have to pay me, pay the court back every penny. And I did, by golly, I paid every red cent. But it taught me a lesson back to that measured risk scenario where I never, again, I'm going to put everything on the line. And I always recommend people not do that, regardless of what the business is. And I always say bootstrap, you know, spend $5,000 or less on a new business idea until you get to that proving point, until it hits critical mass that it can start taking care of itself. 5,000 is a nice round number. Jim Beach, who is the founder and the host of Startup Radio, School for Startups. He starts businesses with a university class. He teaches a university class, and every semester they start a new business, and he throws in $5,000 of his own money, and that's it. If the business can't generate income after that, he doesn't put any more into it. But it's, again, that measured risk.
Yeah. No, I was talking about the same thing with that same friend this morning, was the not only measured risk, but it's also, if this came up because we had an entrepreneur come in and they had some business idea, and it's actually got a little bit of traction, but they wanted $1 million of venture capital, right? So pretty dang substantial amount, right? And I said, well, do you really know what you're asking for here? Because if you can't generate $10,000 or $15,000, how are you going to make the $1 million back on this? And why would I trust a 21-year-old with a new business idea to be able to, and not that his age wasn't anything, but he hadn't proven that he knows how to allocate $1 million of resources.
What's that Silicon Valley mentality, where I'm going to use other people's money to build this empire, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it just seems silly the way he was pitching it to me. And I think that's something that makes a lot of sense too. I was talking to another friend years ago, and we were talking about the book by Ray Dalio, Principles. And one of his principles is he invests by asymmetric risk versus reward.
Right.
So he's looking for a disproportional amount of upside compared to the downside. Where most people think it's proportional. The amount of risk is equal to the amount of reward. And that's not true. You can find asymmetric opportunities. I think that's exactly what you're hitting on here. It's that you can find minimal ways of, think about why would I quit my job to start making widgets if I could just make widget making from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. every night and sell a significant amount, not have to give up a salary, benefits, all that crap, right? That's, I think, the question people should ask themselves. It's like, I got to burn the boats. Gary Vee says quit it and try it. It's just, you don't necessarily need to do that.
Well, and every $1 billion idea was started in a garage or at a kitchen table, much like many of my business ideas. Look around my desk, I got all kinds of notes like this. Whatever my next big idea is going to be, I write things down. If I don't write them down, I'm going to forget about them, number one, because I'm 59 years old. But a lot of my great ideas have started with just a couple of chicken scratches. And from there, a couple more. And then I share the idea with someone, and they give me some ideas. I have a new thing coming out. It's called 6-star certification. Imagine if you were to walk into a business. I want to get your opinion on this, AJ. You walk into a business and there's a thing on the wall that says, "We believe in the 6-star service manifesto." And then there it says, "We promise to treat you like gold in every interaction. We promise to make sure that you are the most important part of every single day. We promise to solve problems quickly and efficiently." And there's a bunch of promises, 6 different promises. If you were to see that on the wall, what's your first impression about this company before there's even a word spoken? What do you think of this company?
Well, they've put some thought into how they treat their customers and how they treat their employees, that they've actually thought about something that they wanted. They do strategic thinking, right? Especially with a small business.
Oh, yeah. And customer service, at least in my opinion, has went downhill for the last 10 or 15 years, and especially since COVID. We now, as consumers, we accept mediocrity.
Yeah.
I think it's terrible. I really think it's terrible. So if you went into a business and you knew that they were going to try to give you that 6-star experience, like go above and beyond, give you something extra that you can't get anywhere else, you're going to feel special. You're going to feel like, okay, this business has got to figure it out. I think I'm going to enjoy doing business with these people. And so we're starting the 6-star certification process where any business in the United States can go through a certification process. It's a questionnaire, online training for employees to teach people how to think differently about servicing your customer, because we put all of our effort into the sales and marketing, right? Sales, marketing, make the sale. Yeah, we're successful. But to me, customer service begins right there, right? Taking care of that customer. 84% of consumers that buy something from a company never go back again to the company again. What does that tell you? If we just learn to take care of even half those people a little bit better, there's our growth. That's what fuels our growth. We're not going to have to try to go and find 1,000 new customers tomorrow because we're just taking such good care of our current customers. That fuels our growth. And I think that's kind of be the future of small business USA, is learning how to take better care of our customers and our clients. Therein lies the magic for success, I think, in the future.
What's your opinion on, I guess, you have this customer service mentality, but then there comes a point when you're almost being too customer friendly in a way, right? So maybe the customers are taking advantage of you, or you're not making wise strategic business moves to support customers. What's your kind of way of balancing that out between having good customer service, but when you go so far, it just becomes obnoxious and probably unnecessary?
Well, I think what you're referring to is the customers that seem to be a pain in the butt all the time. They're just asking. Is that kind of?
Yeah.
Well, if I always say, if a customer is not helping you reach your ultimate goals, personal lifestyle goals and business goals, professional goals, if they're not helping you achieve those goals, it's okay to say no to them. It's okay to say goodbye. I used to own a photography studio years ago, and people would call up, and I could just tell there's a feeling that, okay, I'm not going to get along with this bride, right? She's going to be the bride from hell, bridezilla. And I had no problem saying, you know what? I'm not available on that date. What I was really saying is I'm not available to you. So I'm not available on that date, but if you got a pen handy, let me give you a couple phone numbers of other photographers that would do a great job for you. I'd be more than happy to refer down to them. And they'd be, oh, wow, right. And they'd be very happy to write phone numbers down because I didn't want to deal with them. I could tell they were going to be the bride from hell. And life is too short to deal with those kind of customers. So it is okay to say no sometimes. You have your policies and procedures. You have your guide rails of how you want to conduct your business. And you've got to be willing to go above and beyond the rails. That's what good, excellent customer service is about. But there are times that you got to just cut that umbilical cord, let the customer go, but do it gracefully, do it with respect. Mutual respect is something that I think good customer service is lacking these days from a lot of companies.
Yeah.
Is you got to respect your customer, and they need to respect you as well. And we demand respect in our businesses, don't we?
Yeah, I think that's something that it's very difficult for new business owners to do. Is
You want to service everybody.
Yeah, you want to service everybody. You can't say no to anyone. They're always, the customer is always right, kind of thing. But I think you make a great point, and I think along those same lines, sometimes there's the customer that's just not right for you because it's not your niche. And you want to make it work so bad because it's a customer or it's a client, but it's just not.
Well,
you're not
money.
Gonna,
It's
yeah,
money, right?
it's money, but how, are you going to be able to serve them too? Right. So it's the exact inverse of your question. It's like, are you going to be able to serve them the best you can? Well, no. I mean, if someone comes in the stores and they want to build a rocket and go to the moon, and they want my services to help them with that,
Yeah.
I'd love to have that opportunity. But the thing is, I'm not going to be able to help you with that.
Yeah. I got to ask you, did you invest in the guy that wanted $1 million?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't. In fact, I told him I didn't even want to refer him to people until he was more vetted, because I just said, this is just no way. And that happens a lot too. You know, you get these guys that come in with different ideas, and I want to help you. I want to get you there. And we have vetting processes for that to see,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
what's your strategy? You know, what would you do with $1 million if I gave it to you? A kid approached me a few months back, and it was some software company he was developing, and he wanted some $30,000 investment. And I was like, okay, well, what's the money going to go for? He's like, well, we need to build awareness.
Yeah.
I said, awareness is a waste of money. If I want you to be bursting at the pipes, like if you came and you were like, hey, I've got this, we have to fill $1 million purchase order for Target. Okay. That is a great opportunity.
Exactly.
Anybody wants to dump money on that. But then the problem is, if you say, oh, I need to build awareness, I'm like, no, I want you to fix your algorithms. I want you to find, efficiency. I want you to make your products so damn good with that money. That's what I want to hear. Or I want you to be bursting at the pipes, and all my money's going to invest in it and make them open.
When you talk to other entrepreneurs, leading entrepreneurs, they'll tell you, go get a sale first. Tell me about your sales numbers. They're not going to ask awareness and what are you going to do for branding and what color is your box. They don't ask those questions. Tell me about your sales.
Right.
And if you are an entrepreneur and you're not willing to go out there and roll your sleeves up and get dirty and make those sales, that's okay. And not everyone likes to sell. I always recommend two things: either learn how to sell and learn to do it very well. And there's plenty of tools out there to teach you to be the best sales in the world. Do that, or hire someone that can.
Yeah.
There's one of those things of learning what you're good at, what your wheelhouse is, and then having other people pick up the slack for you. You don't have to do it all as an entrepreneur. You really don't. They say chief bottle washer, head cook. That's okay if you're looking just for a little side hustle. But if you're looking to actually make a living, like a decent amount of revenue from this idea, you probably have to bring in a couple other minds beside yourself. It's okay to share in the glory. You don't have to have 100% of something small. I'd rather have 10% of something large than 100% of something very small that requires me every minute of the day. And my brain, even at 5 o'clock, when the whistle blows, I'm still thinking about it. And I got to tell you, Jay, at the end of my day, I can put and this is a home office. Right over there is our living room, and then the sitting room and our dining room, and then the kitchen's over there. So when I'm done, this is my last thing of the day. I will step across that virtual line, right? And I have a pretty easy time doing that. I know how to flip that switch off and go be with my kids. And they don't say, "Well, Dad, tell us about every part of your day." I don't recap it. I close up, I finish up, do my to-do list for tomorrow. It's the last thing I do every single day. That's one of my hacks, is I make sure my to-do list for tomorrow is done today. So when I get up tomorrow morning, I hit the ground running. I'm saying, okay, what do I want to do today? I mean, I have my calendar with stuff that's in it, but there's all those things day to day, as you have it too. Day to day, we have to figure out what we're doing with our void spaces, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know what I'm doing with my void spaces before I leave today. And I think it's part of success, especially small entrepreneurs, is you got to live within yourself, but also you got to schedule your time. You got to be a controller of your time, and you got to be an expert with your time. Otherwise, your time gets sucked away before you know it. 80 hours, 85 hours. And I tell you, let's say you're working 80 hours a week, and you come up with this the 24/7 mentality, and you believe in that, and you truly try to eliminate stuff from your day, and you truly try to do the most important things every day and offload the other stuff. If you can get your 80 hours down to 72, man, you just revolutionized your life, right? Because now you got 8 hours that you get to reinvest back into your family, back into your business, back into staring at a tree in your backyard, into self-education. You now have a full 8 hours. That's a full day to reinvest into whatever you choose. It's at that time freedom I think that we're all striving for, is we want to have time freedom and location freedom, right? That's the new thing these days, is you want to be a digital nomad. You want to make your living on this little laptop, and that's great, but everyone's thinking they can do it. There's still a lot of need for brick and mortar type businesses, people that make products, people that make blue widgets. That never is going away. We're never going to have a culture that is truly 100% making all their money online. Yes, we need it as a tool, but the world goes around on blue widgets, on things that are made by people. Cups, pens, radios from the early 70s, tape measures, all kinds of stuff. These little things here, somebody makes these. And they make a lot of money. These are those little earbuds. When you go to a race, 2 weeks ago, we flew down to Vegas for the NHRA Top Fuel competition. And you got to have these in your ears, or you will blow your eardrums out. If you've ever been to a Top Fuel thing, those Top Fuel guys, it's absolutely amazing. I like 4 seconds. That's it. But your whole body just completely shakes. Every cell in your body's like this. You got to have those things in there. But somebody's making millions of dollars making those, right?
Well, you make a good point too on the idea of, like, for example, with the brick and mortar side of it, right? So when I first started this venture project business, I wanted to go as small as possible and then snowball things, right? So first thing, you walk in, and then I started to realize, okay, well, someone's gonna have to be here all the time to figure out like who's gonna open the doors and who's gonna do this. And entrepreneur mind's like, well, I got to hire somebody for this. And if you guys have been living under a rock lately, you'll realize that it's impossible to hire people right now. You can't hire anyone. No one will.
We're making more money being at home.
It's crazy. I can't hire anyone. So then I started to think, okay, do I really need to hire someone? What if I got an automated lock system, and they opened at certain times, and we found this solution called Next Key. It works with your locks where it automatically opens back and forth. And I was like, wow, okay. So now I avoided, and I found out all the things that I needed to do that I thought an employee would have to do. And I figured out a way to automate all of it.
Right.
And it got me to the point where, okay, well, now I don't really need to hire someone. So then I have my video guy, and I said, I'd really like to spend more of your video time where you're shooting, because you're very good at shooting. And I don't want you taking up so much time editing, because editing is expensive. So when we said, well, how do we outsource this? Let's find a VA. Well, I don't want to find an American VA because they're expensive. Right. And I think that they're just as talented overseas. So here's a hack for everybody out there. You go to onlinejobs.ph, and you can find any
$5 an
any
hour.
any virtual assistant for $3 to $5 an hour.
That's right. And they're phenomenal. They're better than a lot of people.
I think they're way better than Americans too,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they're the attention to detail. They're college educated. They speak great English. I mean, they're great, and I love it. So we did that. So now he shoots, they eat it, and then it just goes back and forth, and that's the plan. And I started, and then the other thing on the same idea, because the idea is like with entrepreneurs is to be so scrutinize every expense as well. We talk a lot about sales money, make as much money as possible, but scrutinizing the expenses, you want that spread. That spread is the profit, right? So we had a $10,000 budget for marketing for this year. So it's a pretty small budget, and we wanted to figure out what we could do with it. And we started throwing out all these ideas, and then we're like, are any of these ideas really going to get us there? And then we started to like, what if we just engineered this? Like one of our ideas was to partner with a basketball team that's local, it's a G League team, and do some stuff. And we're like, well, what if we just took that money and just kept it? And then we just went and talked to some of the players, got them in on some podcasts, and started like social engineering this a little bit.
Okay.
That's free. So it's just like when you start thinking about what do I actually need to do and what's the cheapest way, and I break down that problem, I think people freak out. They overhire, they do all this stuff. Here we are operating a system with virtually no money. And it's just,
and
people
that
don't
just
think
required a little bit of your time to sit down and look at the systems that you have built in your business.
Yeah.
And say, okay, here's a system here that seems to have too many moving pieces. Let's break it down and then rebuild that system with fewer moving pieces, more efficient, less time, less money, like you just stated. That's where efficiencies take place, is looking at everything in your business. And I mean everything, the website, your marketing collateral, your staffing, look at everything, break it down to the smallest number of pieces, and then rebuild each system one at a time, more efficiently. That's where you get your time freedom back. That's where you really can fuel growth at an exponential rate, because all of a sudden you have all these extra resources you have time resources, you extra money. Now you can supercharge your growth efforts and put it in and scale very quickly, as opposed to, like you said, being heavy burdened with your overhead, your staffing, square footage. I mean, lots of companies, millions of companies have realized now through the pandemic, they don't have to have these huge offices with 90 cubicles on each floor,
right,
with people staffed and paying the phones and the lights. They can send you home, make sure they continue to give you good training. That's one of the things that's dropped off is people that have been sent home. Half of them are excelling. They're doing better than before. But the other half are, oh, hey, I'm home. I'm going to go watch 5 minutes of ESPN. I'm going to throw the ball for my dog. Hey, little baby, come here, jump on my lap. And all of a sudden, their efficiency and their the stuff they get done each day has went through the toilet because they're not being responsible. That's another hard part about being an entrepreneur. You have to be disciplined, right? You got to be self-disciplined, and you got to know, today I got to do these 4 things. And you don't leave until those four things are done.
Right. You put some
otherwise, otherwise you're not meant to be an entrepreneur. You're meant to be an employee.
So, on that same idea, I wanted to ask you this. Since the beginning is, you've had your hand in so many different businesses, and you've had a lot of different experiences in entrepreneurial startups. And I can tell you just by talking to you, you also have just tons of ideas all the time for new opportunities or new businesses. I think a lot of people run into this issue of there's so many ideas that they just get shiny object syndrome. What have you found as a way to vet ideas and execute? How do you execute which one? How do you choose that? What's your process?
I have that disease. Squirrel. Ooh, something shiny. Hey, let's go ride a bike. Come on, AJ. I've been like that my entire career. I love the challenge of something new, but I have a philosophy where if I'm going to do any new project, whether it be an idea for a new product, a new business, a new anything, I have to, once it becomes mature, I have to be able to offload 90% of it. If it requires me and my time and my mental energy to continue to keep it going, I'm probably not going to jump into the project, only because I have finite time. I'm going to be 72 by the time my 6-year-old graduates high school. I want to be there for her. When I was young, my dad was traveling. He was civilian Navy, and he was all over the world. He was doing very cool things, but I didn't know my dad when I was young. I didn't get to know him until he was older, when he moved out here 12 years ago to be by his grandkids. then I really got to know my dad, who he was as a person. I want my kids to have memories of me when they're 59 years old. So I don't want to work all the time. I want to work as few hours as I can. So I got to have great people around me, and the ideas and the projects that I take on, I have to be able to automate or delegate 90% of it by the time it comes to maturity. I usually say 6 months. In 6 months, I'm going to know if something's going to have wings or not.
Yeah.
And I have no problem pulling plugs on projects that are just money sucks and time sucks.
Yeah.
No problem at all. Like I said, I've failed more times than most people have succeeded, just because I like trying lots of things.
What's
And
your threshold for that? So like, you get so much competing advice, right? So people say, well, just persistence, just keep ramming it through the wall. And then at some point it's like, well, no, you got to cut our losses here. And this might not be the right idea. What's kind of your like metric or threshold to say we're pulling the plug on this project? This doesn't have legs.
If it's not profitable in 6 months, I have no problem just saying, okay, it was fun. It's great packaging, good product. We've made some money while it lasted. But if it's not profitable and it continues to take the same amount or more time, then I'll let it go and sell it. I've sold, I think I was counting about 6 months ago. I think I've sold 16 different companies in my career. So I like giving birth to an idea, building it, and then letting someone else take care of it.
Right.
And I've done that with restaurants. I've done that with lots of different industries. I get bored very easy, so I have to move on sometimes. Another side story: in 2019, beginning of 2019, we were busy. I had five companies at the time. Very busy, plenty cash flow. We had money. Whatever I want to do, vacation, we'd go on vacation. Want to buy something, you go buy it. I got bored. I heard via the grapevine that they were looking for a president of a Class A affiliate of the world champion San Francisco Giants baseball team. So I made a phone call, and over the course of a couple of interviews, got offered the job. I transferred the responsibility of my companies to my wife and promoted some people, and so I could free up my time. And I went and actually had a job for one season, for 1 year. I actually had a job, the first paycheck I've drawn since the early 90s. And I went through an organizational rebrand. I fired every one of the people. And then one at a time, if they wanted to continue working, I said, yeah, I'll interview you, but I want to make sure that you're not part of the problem. Why I had to give up my summer with my kids to come fix this, I want to make sure it wasn't because of you. And so out of all the people that wanted to get hired back, I think we hired back 9 or 10 or 11. And then we hired another 100 and something people to be able to do a baseball season. And we raised attendance by like 12%. It was one of the best in all of professional baseball. And then COVID hit. I stepped down because there was no baseball. And I had to come take care of my family. My kids were homeschooled and take care of my companies. But that was one of the highlights of my career because baseball is my favorite sport. Dodgers are my favorite team. So it was kind of weird working for a Giants affiliate. But the opportunity to be a president of a professional sports team, most people could only dream about that. And I was able to realize that. And now it's a paragraph in my resume. I don't really have a resume, but it's a paragraph in my bio that says I got to play baseball for a year. So that was kind of cool. The highlights of my life.
What would you say, before we wrap up today, is just the one parting piece of advice you would give to people, whether they're, thinking of starting a business, whether they're already starting a business, or whether they're just kind of looking to be leaders in kind of life? What would you say to them?
One piece of advice. That's
just one single piece.
I would say that to live life today like you mean it, don't put off doing something today just because A, you can't afford it, B, you think you don't have the time, or C, you just don't think it fits into your life structure right now. Don't put things off. I disagree with the philosophy of I'm going to put everything I can into my 401k because my employer is going to match it. And when I'm 65 years old, by golly, then I'm going to live. What if something happens? What if something happens to you or a child or a spouse that kind of puts you into the doldrums for a few years? Life is too short and precious and fleeting. So live life today, take risks today, measured risks, and then worry about tomorrow. Live today to the fullest. And I mean 110% to the fullest. One of
There
my
you heard
dear
it.
friends owns a radio station. I just heard 2 days ago that he's on a respirator in the hospital. He's in his late 70s, and that he's probably not going to make it.
Hmm.
And that, again, is just one of those little light switches, man. Slow down, smell the roses, enjoy that little dash. You know, you're born on
Presence,
this
yeah.
year, you're dead on this year. In between, there's that little dash. That dash is your entire life, every
Yeah.
second of your life and everything you do, man. Just slow down and enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, there you heard it, folks, from Mitche Graf talking about
Or
living.
Mitche Graf.
Or Mitche Graf. You know, we'll keep the E silent, whatever. I had a friend in elementary school who went by Mitche, so that's
okay.
bringing back some serious.
Hey, it was me. Now I recognize you. No,
Yeah, I think that's about the same time frame. You know,
I'm much older than you.
well, there you heard it, folks. Like, stay present. You know, learning these types of techniques where you can be in the moment, be present, and take some measured risks. I think is a good learning lesson from today. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show today, sir. Where can people get a hold of you, find you, follow along with your journey?
Well, they can get a copy of my new book, which is called Customer Service is Dead, Delivering 6-Star Service in a 1-Star World. You can go to the number 6-star.org, and you can actually get a free paperback there. You just pay a small shipping and handling. Or you can go to Amazon.com and you can search any of my other business books. My main education website is powermarketing101.com. So power, P as in Paul, powermarketing101.com, and they can find out all kinds of stuff about me there.
We could dig into so much. I mean, just with the stories you've had, the business experience, it was really a treat just getting to hear and discuss this and have
fun talking to you. It's a real joy to meet you, and look forward to future success.
Well, thank you so much. Well, you guys are listening to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews podcast. Winners featuring people crushing it in life. Wallets talking about money, small business, real estate, finance, and Worldviews talking about all the things that change our perspective and help us.
And you got that thing memorized. You got that pad there. All right.
I've done it once or twice now. 150 episodes, right? Well, thank you so much, folks, for listening today. Be somebody.